I have to say it's a real pleasure to come to these events here at the Granite Club at least once a year. So it's my pleasure to be with you. And I have this crazy theory that filmmakers today are the shamans, the tribal elders of today's society. Because we don't sit around campfires anymore, keeping the tribal group together so we don't get eaten by lions on the plains of the Serengeti, or however far back in human history you want to take this. Instead, we go to small gatherings like this, large palatial movie theaters where we get together, but we hear the stories of our society. And so I think the same dynamic happens. It's almost like we have a need not to sit in our houses and just watch movies, alone or with the immediate family. We do need a large collected group because you need to feel other people breathing, laughing, crying, whatever the emotional response is to a film. And I think it's really important also to note that my theory only applies to good filmmakers. David Fincher, as Tom Ernst has already said, is a very good filmmaker. He started with Alien 3. Okay, so he started in a very strange way. In fact, it's a film that he felt disgraced by because the process was so horrible. And I think it steeled his resolve to make films that Hollywood didn't tell him to do, that he told Hollywood he was doing. And stories that meant something. And he's made some very interesting movies since. One of my favorites, Fight Club. And I hope all of you get a chance to see that crazy, interesting, dynamic film at some point. But he's gone through a whole evolution of filmmaking so that when it came time for The Social Network, just by coincidence, it happened that I was on the telephone to him on one of his break days from filming this film because it was the 10th anniversary of Fight Club. And I got on the phone with him, and he's very reluctant to do interviews. Usually he thinks every critic hates his movies. And he had to be convinced that I was somebody who actually gave Fight Club a good review before he would even get on the telephone with me. And we ended up talking for an hour and 45 minutes, even though 15 minutes have been set aside for the interview. And the reason I'm spinning that tale is because he has an absolute need to express himself. And he feels stymied by the system of Hollywood, by the system of media, and the fact that everything is broken up into little bits, which has an ironic it's an ironic paradox given that he's making a movie about the social network where it's the modern style of communication that he's dealing with, where everything is broken into little bits. Fragments of personality are put on your Facebook profiles, for example. Fragments are thrown out on Twitter as if that was the final way for people to communicate these days in 140 characters at a time. And here's somebody who wants to tell you this story in 2 hours. And like Tom said, every second is worth it. It's a fragmented story in terms of how the narrative is not linear, but it's not fragmented in terms of the building up of information that you get over the course of this film. And I'm not going to give away any plot or we all know it's about the founding of Facebook. But I'm not going to give away any of the structure or thoughts. We'll talk about that afterwards. But I would like to give one piece of advice or something, plant a seed for you to think about. Do you believe everything you see when you see a film that's based on a true story? And that's something I think would be really important to think about and then talk about later. But in the meantime, this is just a really entertaining, engaging film about a transformation of society that's taken place, of which Facebook is one part of it. I'm not sure if anyone's seen The Fifth Estate. It's another film. Of course, it's about the founding of WikiLeaks and the subsequent craziness that's been swirling around that particular individual who founded it, Julian Assange. And I think that if you haven't seen that one yet, after you've seen The Social Network, try to find a chance to see The Fifth Estate. These are movies about how contemporary society is profoundly changing because of the way we communicate with each other. And so, without further blather and bother, I'm going to say let's see the film and then we'll talk afterwards. Thank you.